Alright, I'm going to make this video the first one of a series on web development without getting into all the theory. Today I'm going to talk about HTML, the programming language that you're going to use to create web pages. Now, as you know, and by the way, I'm not going to take 60 minutes to do this. You're welcome. But you know how it is when you go into a classroom, you sit down and the teacher might teach for 60 minutes or something. But in this case, I do need you to pay attention to this. I'm trying to do live sessions with a lot of you, and some of you are still working on GIMP. Some of you are only halfway through GIMP, so you're falling behind, and so at least I'll have this video ready for you. A lot of you are on at different times of the day, and so it's making it difficult for me to give live sessions and answer your questions. So I'm going to create these videos with the intent of trying to help you as much as I can with these videos, and then when you do get stuck, let's say, or you have questions, that I will try to be available to give you a hand with that. Now, the reason we're doing HTML first is because I don't know what I could compare it to. It's like getting your license to drive a car and not knowing how to put air in your tires or how to check your oil, or I mean, I could go on with this analogy. But what I'm getting to is that we're going to be creating our web pages using a program called Composer, which is a free open source program that is called a web editor. It does exactly that. It lets you create web pages quite easily. Like Word helps you create text documents a lot better than using Notepad like I have up on the screen here. So you'll be using the web editor to do a lot of your work, but there are a lot of times when it's good for you to know the basics of HTML, and I say the basics because you don't need to memorize 200 different tags or codes or anything like that, or how to put a YouTube video on your page. It's not something you need to memorize like you'd need to memorize some sort of fancy physics formula. So, I'm just gonna, there we go. Anyways, so what I'm getting at is, I'm saying a lot, but what I'm getting at is that I want you to understand the concept of HTML so that you will be able to throw in YouTube videos, embed them onto your page, troubleshoot some issues that you might have with codes, with something that's just not working. Anyways, I'm going to start with this. Let's see, I don't know what time we're at here, but I'm going to start with this simple tutorial on HTML. And what I need you to do is I need you to open up a program on your computer called Notepad. Some people use WordPad. You might use Pages or something with the Mac. But as long as you have a text editor, and I recommend that you don't use Word for this. It's just so much easier doing it in Notepad. So, I guess it didn't. All right, don't show this message again. There we go. So like I say, I'm doing this off the cuff. I don't have anything in front of me, memorizing anything. I just want to show you how HTML works. All web pages begin with a certain tag, and tags are the codes in HTML that tell the web browser what to do. So Internet Explorer knows what to do when it sees certain tags. All web pages, and yes, there are always exceptions, but all web pages begin with the tag HTML. We call this an open tag. I hit enter a whole bunch of times. It doesn't matter how many times. And I'm going to close this tag. So I'm going to use a close tag that has that slash with HTML in those brackets. So we have the beginnings of a web page that we're programming. And we're going to see how this works very, very shortly. Now, if you do this, I'd like you to do this, pause the video if you need to do it, and then come back. The next thing we're going to put into our web page, just below the HTML tag, is a new tag called head, and that is called the heading tag. The heading tag without going into real specifics, and we'll put one down here just above the HTML close tag. We'll put a close head tag. The head, no, I want to bring that one up. I'm going to bring that one up. I'm just going to cut it and paste it up here somewhere. Get back to that in a minute. But I put it up here. What we put in the heading is the information that the browser will read to know, for instance, how to display the page. If we wanted a certain page color background, if we want it. Well, basically, you know, when you're in a web browser, Internet Explorer, and you're on a tab or something, it says something in that tab. It says what page you're on. If I go to, I'll just go to my super web page here. But you see that I have different tabs with different information here. Well, what we put in the heading, one of the pieces of information is what we would like to have up on the tab up here. Another one would be like the background colors, the page size, stuff like that. Font, the font that you want to use, and so on and so forth. But we're not going to get fancy. So in the heading, in between the heading tags, we tell it that we do want to have something that's called title, which is what would go up onto our tabs or our title bar. And whatever we type here in between these two tags, and pause the video if you need to, whatever we type here will show up on these tabs. So I'm going to call this, just looking at a poster that I have here, and I'm going to call it the 2013 CMRC, I'll call it the schedule. Just some motorcycle racing. And how you type it here is how it's going to appear up here in your tabs. So uppercase or lowercase. Now I always type my my tags here in uppercase, but it doesn't really matter. I like it like this for just clarity, so it's easier for me to figure out. And let's just move this one up. I don't have to move it up, I just did. So that's stuff that's going to show up at the top. We're almost done this. I'll continue with another video here shortly as a part 2 for this. But what we type here is what the reader, what the user visits when they go to see a web page, is they'll see what shows up within the body tags. And this is where I'm going to put this body tag down here. And again, I don't care how many enters that you used, you know, spaces that you use between here. It doesn't matter. But here's my body tag. I'll just hit enter here to start typing my text. And I'll type in something like, I'll just make something up here. The 2013 CMRC schedule for the Atlantic region. And you should type this, just it'll be that much easier for you to just take what I have here, is now available. And that's enough for now. Now I could leave all these spaces here, it's not going to matter. But what I'm going to do, and what I'd like you to do, is you're going to create a folder on your, probably your student drive, I would say, wherever you've been saving, maybe close to where you were saving your GIMP assignments for digital technologies. And you're going to create yourself a new folder if you haven't done that already. I'll call this one, I'll just call it Web Dev. I probably already have one called Web Dev, and I'm going to save mine on the C drive. Yeah, I have one here called Web Dev, but create yourself a new folder. Call it Web Dev or Web Development or Unit 2 or whatever you want, but something that you'll recognize and something that you'll keep using. And so you'll create that folder, and this is where you're going to save this file. Now you'll see I have a file in here already, so just ignore it. When you first save a file, the very first page should always have one of, and I'm going to say 3, okay? You can start doing the Google searches and find out all of the different names that you can use, but I'm going to start with 3 of them. When we're using Notepad, we make sure that we save it as all files, save type all files, and we're going to call it, and it's already there for me, but it's another one. We're going to call it index.html. And you can read why in some cases some people put only HTML, but we're going to put HTML. 2 other options are as the very first page that a user visits. When they type in google.com, it's probably google.com/index.html. I'm saying that, you can try it. With Google, it probably wouldn't be. But your browser knows to go look for one of three files: index.html, default.html, or home.html. And again, there are exceptions to every rule, but this is what I want you to remember. I'm going to save this. Of course, in my case, it wants to overwrite it. I'll overwrite it. And there we go. I have my file called index.html. And now how do I know if it works? Well, this is what I want you to do next. So review this video a couple times starting at this point if you need to figure this out. Now I'm going to start with Internet Explorer. I want to see what this looks like in a browser because it's going to read all of these different codes. So I'm going to just start with another page here. I'll just start it. Whoops. I'll just start it with this page here, I guess. I'll close that. I'll close that. I'll even close that. I'll close everything. I'll open up Internet Explorer again. Whoops, wrong one. We're almost at the end of this video. As soon as my Internet Explorer opens, I'll show you this, and then I'll do the same thing with Chrome. It'll work the same way with Safari or Opera or Firefox. In Internet Explorer, there's a good chance at school that you do not have a menu. Like I have File, Edit, View, and all that stuff. If you do have a menu, and I'll show you what to do if you don't. My computer's very slow. Eventually, here we go. If you do have a menu, click on File, Open, and browse for that folder that you just created and the folder that you'll keep referring to on your student drive called WebDev. And probably the only file you'll see, you won't even see this here, but you'll see index.html. Check the date and time. Is it the one that you just created? That's something that I check all the time. I'll explain that later. And let's see what my file looks like. Here we go. This is all it looks like. It knew how to read this web page, and it put the schedule up here, the title, up in my tab, if I'm using tab browsing. And this is what it looks like here. Now I'm going to do the same thing with Chrome, just to see what it looks like. If you don't have a toolbar, or a menu bar, so if you didn't have File open and you're in Internet Explorer, use your keyboard and hit Control-O. Control-O is the shortcut for File open. Control-O will work the same way. And look for your folder like I did a minute ago. Mine must have moved down here. There we go, WebDev. I guess it didn't move. Index. And this is what it looks like in... Now you see the difference here. The only difference really is that I'm working at 150% here. But it looks pretty similar in Internet Explorer and Chrome. But it's good to view things in different browsers because some browsers work with some of these tags a bit different.